A mother called 911 on me for watching kids at the playground, not knowing I controlled her custody fate. I should have left the playground the moment the blonde woman asked if I was going through a divorce, but my 5-year-old niece was having too much fun on the swings to leave. She'd cornered me while the other mothers watched, insisting men only showed up here on weekdays when they had custody battles to win, completely unaware that I was the psychologist who evaluated parents for those exact battles. The blonde woman started with whispers to the other mothers, pulling her daughter away when my niece tried to play with her, and finally approached to ask which family I worked for, since there was never a man here on weekday afternoons. When I explained I was watching my niece, her mouth tightened into a thin line, and she planted herself in front of me, something familiar about her stance. She told me how her ex-husband used to pretend to care about their daughter too, how he'd show up at playgrounds with the same practice smile I was wearing, and suddenly I placed her from the stack of evaluations on my desk, her Thursday appointment circled in red on my calendar. She tilted her head and asked if I was going through a divorce too, if that's why I was suddenly playing uncle on a Tuesday afternoon instead of being at work like a normal man, and I kept my face neutral even as my chest tightened because revealing myself now would only escalate things. Some of us take time off for family, I said quietly, but she scoffed and turned to the other mothers, announcing that divorced fathers always had excuses for why they were lurking around children. She called over a father in an expensive suit who was clearly on his lunch break, grabbing my elbow to position me beside him, and I let her because confrontation would make things worse. She pointed at his pressed shirt, then at my faded one, running her finger along his sleeve, then flicking mine with disgust, while explaining to her audience that real fathers could afford to dress properly because they had actual jobs. My molars ground together until my jaw ached as the other mothers murmured agreement, and her confidence grew with every nod she received from her audience. She stepped closer, close enough that I could smell her coffee breath, and loudly asked if I had photos of children on my phone, suggesting that's what men like me did while the mothers gasped. My hands started trembling as she announced to everyone within earshot that there was a suspicious man making them all uncomfortable, that mothers needed to watch their children more carefully when strangers appeared, and sweat pooled at the base of my neck as I recognized this spiral from her case file, the same paranoid accusations she'd made about her ex-husband. The situation deteriorated when she marched over to a group of playing children, her voice carrying across the playground as she told them to stay away from the scary man by the swings who wasn't supposed to be near kids. If he tries to talk to you, you run to your mommies, understand? She instructed, pointing at me while their eyes went wide with fear, and my stomach twisted as my niece's new friends backed away from her like she was contagious. She circled me like a predator, taking photos from every angle while narrating to the other mothers that predator alert groups needed clear documentation, and bile rose in my throat knowing these photos would exist forever on the internet attached to accusations I couldn't disprove without revealing my position. When my niece ran to me sobbing because the other children wouldn't play with her anymore, the blonde grabbed her arm and yanked her backward off her feet, my niece's small body hitting the rubber playground surface hard enough to knock the wind out of her. Your mommy asked me to take you to a safer person, sweetie. Your uncle won't be allowed near you anymore, she said with a fake gentle smile while my niece gasped for air, and something inside me nearly snapped at watching her traumatize this innocent child to prove a point about her own custody battle. My niece's terrified screams felt like physical blows as she fought against this stranger's grip, reaching desperately for me while my legs turned to water, her small fingers clawing at the air between us as she dragged her further away. I forced myself to stay calm, knowing any movement toward them would be twisted into aggression, but when she started toward the playground exit with my screaming niece, I had to act. Let her go, I said, my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. You're hurting her. Her face lit up with triumph as she released my niece and rushed at me, shoving me back against the fence with surprising strength, the chain link digging into my spine as she pinned me there with her forearm across my throat. He tried to lure a little girl into the bathroom, she said into her phone while I struggled to breathe. No, officer, he's getting aggressive now. Please hurry. The police arrived, and the younger officer's expression shifted when he recognized me pinned against the fence. Doctor, James, what are you doing here? He asked, and the blonde's grip loosened as he explained to the crowd that I was the family court's chief custody evaluator who wrote recommendations for every contested divorce in the district. I watched the color drain from her face as she processed what she'd just done to the person handling her case. She stumbled backward, grabbing my arm, stammering about misunderstandings and how being protective proved she was a good mother, exactly what I looked for in evaluations. She kept repeating her case number while trying to help bandage my niece's knee with shaking hands, insisting her vigilance today showed she deserved full custody, the same desperate bargaining I'd heard dozens of times. I'll see you Thursday, I said, buckling my niece into her car seat while she stood frozen, for your evaluation.